So stealth is obviously a pillar of any Assassin's Creed game, or at least most of them anyways. I will say, I felt like we kind of lost that stealth identity a little bit in the more recent games, but it's fair to say that stealth is almost certainly back in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And so today, I'm going to run you guys through all of the key changes that are coming to the stealth mechanics in the new installment. Now, the first thing that really excites me, and this is a big change up to what we've seen in every other Assassin's Creed game in the past, we can finally go prone in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and this is going to allow us to be even more hidden during stealth moments. Obviously, in most Assassin's Creed games, we've always been able to crouch, and that obviously makes it a lot more viable to hide in the grass and stuff like that, where if you're standing, people will still see you. But now that we can go prone, it kind of makes the grass mechanics even more powerful because it is even harder for enemies to find you. Now, this can also just work with, for example, small walls that if you were crouching, maybe your head would be sticking up above that, where if you go prone, obviously enemies won't see you. Hell, even on rooftops, where if there's just a certain angle that even crouching down enemies can see you from the ground, well, now you can go prone and it will just keep you even more hidden. On top of that as well, we will no doubt be able to find little secret entrances into areas. I have no doubt that the devs have put a lot of time into those sorts of things, where there's just a tiny little like crack in a wall that we can get under, for example, where maybe climbing over that wall would make us visible to the enemies, giving us a different approach to all of those sorts of situations. Now, from what I remember in my own playtime, I'm pretty sure that both Nawe and Yasuke can go prone. I know for a fact that Nawe can, but I'm pretty sure Yasuke can as well, though obviously it's a little bit less useful when it comes to Yasuke because he is so damn big and he's so heavy with all of his armor and stuff that obviously stealth isn't as important for him, but it is still good that we can go prone as him too, because that may save us in some moments where he is just far too visible. Now, something else that is really cool to see, and it's actually perfect with the name of this game, is that we can now use shadows, specifically at nighttime, as far as I know anyway, in order to be even more hidden. Now, I've got this clip here from AC Landmarks on Twitter. Be sure to go and check him out, as I actually didn't record any of my own footage doing this. But as you can see, as he sort of crawls into the shadows here, obviously it's at nighttime and there's a bit of moonlight, but as he gets out of that moonlight, there is a white outline around Nawe, which is obviously what happens when you go into grass and stuff like that. So that white outline essentially means that you are hidden at that point. Now, it's not like people cannot see you at all if you're like proning in shadows. If there's someone standing right next to you looking at you, they will still see you, but it just makes you a hell of a lot harder to see. And personally, I think that is a really, really cool mechanic that initially I didn't even know this existed. I had a few moments in my own playtime where it was nighttime, and I actually didn't make the most of this because I didn't know it existed. So personally, I think it's a cool touch, and like I said, the fact the game is called Assassin's Creed Shadows, it kind of feels like the perfect time to implement this into the game. Now, something else that adds to the stealth in this game, and it is a bit of a change up from previous games, is the new observe mechanic, as well as essentially an overhaul of eagle vision, which is going to change things up quite a bit. Now, firstly, the observe mechanic is pretty much just zooming in and being able to like ping enemies that are in your line of sight. Now, Yasuke can do this as well, but for Nawe, it is actually a little bit different because hers is kind of combined with eagle vision that, as far as I know, Yasuke can't actually do. Now, the eagle vision is, I guess, more in line with the OG eagle vision from like the old school games. Obviously, in the more recent like RPG Assassin's Creed games, there was the overhead eagle companion system that has been removed in this game, and instead it's kind of been combined with the OG eagle vision, which is what you guys can see here. When you enter that, you will essentially be able to see enemies through walls and stuff, and because of that observe system too, that again Yasuke can do, when you're doing this as Nawe, it means that you can then ping those enemies, meaning your approach to those situations when it comes to stealth is a lot easier, because obviously you're going to be able to kind of scout that area, figure out where all the enemies are, and then from there you shouldn't really be getting surprised by anyone who's maybe around a corner that you didn't expect, and it will allow you to really plan your approach in those stealthy situations. Personally, I think this is a cool touch. It's not a drastic departure from the previous eagle vision in my opinion. It's pretty damn similar to the overhead system, just now being on the ground. But personally, I like that a bit more. I think the eagle companion system was always a little bit strange, at least to me personally. And so I'm definitely keen to see them go down this path instead. Now, just quickly before we go any further, guys, I wanted to mention that channel memberships have been overhauled and brought back finally. And for less than the price of a single coffee once per month, you can can gain access to a bunch of awesome benefits while also supporting me and my content here on YouTube. By becoming a member, you'll gain early access to pretty much all of the videos that I upload, often days before anyone else gets to see them. You'll get exclusive members only content such as my first hour series and even some behind the scenes content too. You can even vote on upcoming content to have your say in what you want to see next on the channel. And you'll even get access to a permanent 15% off code for all merch in the store, private access to our Discord server, as well as loyalty badges next to your name in the comment section and in live chats as well. If you're looking to support the channel and all of that sounds enticing to you, then please do consider hitting that join button. But with that being said, let's get stuck back into the video. Now, something else that is really cool when it comes to the overall stealth in this game is that there's a lot more like environmental interactions that can drastically change the way this stealth works. Now, the first one I wanted to mention is to do with the lighting. Like I mentioned earlier, being in the shadows will essentially count as you being hidden. And something that's cool that kind of adds to that is that you can actually turn off stuff like candles, or you can put out flames and stuff that will conceal you in the darkness, making you even harder to see. And so the map is going to be a lot more, I guess, interactable in that if there's an area that's kind of lit up during the night with a lot of flames and stuff like that, there are certain things you can do to make it darker and therefore help you in your stealth. On the flip side, there are also things that kind of make it a little bit harder for you. One thing that I noticed in my playtime is what's called nightingale floors. Now, nightingale floors are essentially floors that creak a hell of a lot when you walk on them. They were supposedly designed in old Japanese temples to kind of stop people from being able to sneak around inside the temples. And so that means that in certain areas in the game, I don't know if that's just in the temples or if there's going to be a lot of different buildings and stuff in the game, but there will be times where you're trying to be stealthy, but the floor itself will actually work against you. And so if you're moving too quickly, for example, that will actually make sound where it might not make sound on like pavement or out in the grass or stuff like that, but in these certain buildings it will make noise and that will alert enemies. So that is a pretty cool dynamic system that also ties a lot into the realism of this setting. Obviously not everything in Assassin's Creed is always realistic, but I think stuff like this, it's cool to see when they actually take real things and sort of implement them into the game. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're inside a temple and you're trying to sneak around, if you can hear the floor creaking, that is not a good thing for you at all. Now, something else worth noting as well is that even when you're stealthy, there are stronger enemies that can actually deny instant stealth kills. And I think this is a cool little addition that kind of makes the game a little bit harder. Now, it's worth noting that this can be turned off. So if you just want to be able to one-hit stealth kill anyone, then yeah, as far as I know, that can be turned off. But from my experience, there are enemies that are stronger and usually they are very obviously visible. For example, they're a lot bigger or they're wearing like massive suits of armor and stuff like that. So it's not like this is just random. You can generally tell who are the stronger enemies and who aren't. And when there is a stronger enemy, even if you sneak up behind them completely unheard and you try and assassinate them, depending on their level and stuff like that, they can deny that one-hit kill. Now, from my own experience, it did still damage them quite a bit, so it's not like it just cancels out and you haven't dealt any damage. Sometimes this would deal a heap of damage to that enemy, so it's still a good thing to do. It's better than trying to fight them head on, especially when you're playing as Nawe. But yeah, it just kind of stopped them from being dead immediately. Sometimes it would like even rip off a piece of armor and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. But again, like I said, if you want that turned off, they have confirmed you can turn that off, and therefore anyone you successfully stealth attack will just be a one-hit kill every single time. Now, the last thing that I thought was worth noting is just essentially down to the dual protagonist element of this game. Obviously, in most previous Assassin's Creed games, the stealth is essentially the same throughout the entire game, because in most games, even the ones with dual protagonists, we were just playing as one character, and so when you get used to the stealth, that's just how it was permanently. In this game, because we are switching between Nawe and Yasuke, at least if you guys want to do that anyway, because for the most part, you can pretty much play the entire game as one character, but for anyone who is regularly changing, it's worth noting that the stealth is very, very different between these two characters. Now, kind of goes without saying, but Nawe is obviously the character who is better built for stealth. She is the assassin, she is the stealthy character in this game, and so the stealth with her is going to feel how you would expect in an Assassin's Creed game, and I've got to say it felt very, very good. But when you're playing as Yasuke, don't get me wrong, you can still be stealthy. It's not impossible to have a stealthy playstyle with him, but it is a lot harder. He is obviously a lot louder, not only just because of his size, but he also wears a lot of armor. He is also obviously a lot easier to see due to his size. And on top of that too, his parkour isn't quite as good. Again, you can still do parkour with Yasuke, it's just not as efficient as it is with Nawe. And so being stealthy and using parkour, they are simply just harder to do with Yasuke than they are with Nawe. So that is definitely something worth keeping in mind. And personally, I think it's pretty cool that we kind of have some very different playstyles in this game that are going to really separate each of these characters from each other. But that is it for most of the key changes coming to the stealth in Assassin's Creed Shadows, guys. Like I said, if you are new to the channel and you're interested in more Assassin's Creed Shadows content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is plenty more content on the way. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.